What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors sits down for what should be a routine interview, only to come face to face with a host determined to tear him apart? What happens when professionalism collides with petty politics and celebrity courtesy meets calculated cruelty? Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking moments in daytime television history, when Ryan Gosling, known for his calm demeanor and thoughtful responses, found himself in a verbal showdown that ended with security being called and one of the biggest names in Hollywood escorted off set. Before we get into it, make sure to hit subscribe and tell me in the comments what you think about talk show hosts who cross the line with their guests. Now, here's what really happened. The morning began like any other at the View Studios in New York. Gosling arrived early as usual, ready for what his publicist had promised would be a standard promotional interview for his latest film. The makeup team described him as polite and professional, the same Ryan they had worked with before. Crew members even commented on how refreshing it was that he remembered their names from previous visits. But while Gosling sat in the green room reviewing his talking points, Joy Behar had spent her morning very differently. According to several people on set, she had been in her dressing room, scrolling through social media, growing increasingly agitated over Gosling's recent comments about staying out of politics. One crew member described her mood as a slow burn turning into a full-blown frenzy. When the cameras went live, everything seemed normal. Whoopi Goldberg delivered the introduction with her usual warmth as the audience erupted in applause. Gosling walked out with his familiar half-smile, waving politely. "Ryan Gosling, everybody," Whoopi said. "Thanks for being here with us. Thanks for having me," he replied, settling into his chair. "Always good to be back." Sarah Haynes kicked things off with an easy question about his latest role. Gosling answered thoughtfully, taking his time instead of delivering rehearsed sound bites. "The character challenged me in ways I didn't expect," he said. "When you play someone dealing with deep internal conflict, you have to find something real inside yourself. It's not about pretending, it's about honesty." The audience leaned in. Even the other hosts seemed genuinely engaged. This was the kind of interview Gosling was known for: calm, sincere, and substantive. Then Joy Behar spoke. "Ryan," she said, her tone instantly changing the temperature in the room, "I have to ask about your recent comments about not wanting to get political. Don't you think that's a luxury for someone in your position?" Gosling kept his pleasant expression, though his posture subtly stiffened. "Well, Joy, I think everyone has the right to choose how they use their platform. I prefer to let my work speak for itself." Behar didn't let up. "Isn't that just another way of saying you don't care about issues that affect real people? When you have millions of followers, isn't staying silent actually taking a political stance?" The other hosts exchanged uneasy looks. This clearly wasn't the direction the interview was meant to go. Gosling remained composed. "I think caring about issues and feeling obligated to broadcast political opinions are two different things. I vote. I donate to causes I believe in. I just don't think every actor needs to become a political commentator. So, actors shouldn't use their platforms to educate people." Behar shot back, leaning forward. "That sounds selfish." The audience began to murmur. The friendly atmosphere was gone. "I'm saying," Gosling replied, a faint edge entering his voice, "that maybe we should trust people to think for themselves instead of assuming they need celebrities to tell them how to vote." Behar flushed. "Oh, so now we're telling people how to vote? Is that what you think this show does?" Whoopi tried to redirect. "Maybe we should get back to the movie." But Behar cut her off. "No, I want to hear this. Ryan thinks we're just celebrities telling people what to think. Is that right?" Gosling met her gaze, calm but firm. "Joy, you're putting words in my mouth. I never said anything about this show. I was talking about my own choices." "Your choices?" Behar repeated sarcastically. "Your choice to stay comfortable and protect your precious career, instead of taking a stand on anything that matters." That was the moment everything changed. Gosling's polite smile disappeared. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with a new, unmistakably serious expression, and the real confrontation was just beginning. "Joy," he said quietly, "do you actually want to talk about my movie? Or did you invite me here just to attack me? The question hung in the air like a thrown blade. The other hosts froze. The audience fell completely silent. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Joy Behar had pushed one of Hollywood's most respected actors to his limit, and now the studio was about to see what happened when Ryan Gosling finally pushed back. Her eyes flashed. "Attack you," she snapped, her voice rising. "Oh, please. Poor little Ryan Gosling can't handle a few tough questions. Maybe you should stick to romantic comedies if real conversations are too much for you." The insult hit the room like a slap. Several audience members gasped. Sarah Haynes stared at her, mouth open. Every line of professional courtesy had just been obliterated. Gosling sat perfectly still. Then he nodded slowly. "There it is," he said calmly, but with a weight that pulled everyone forward in their seats. "You know, Joy, I came here to talk about a film that deals with mental health, family trauma, and finding hope in dark places. Real issues that affect real people. But instead, you've turned this into a political ambush. I'm asking legitimate questions." Behar shot back. "Legitimate?" Gosling repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You just insulted my entire career and called me selfish because I don't express politics the way you prefer. In what world is that journalism?" Whoopi tried to intervene. "Okay, let's all take a breath." "No," Behar cut in sharply. "I'm tired of these Hollywood pretty boys coming on this show, thinking they can smile their way through without standing for anything. He thinks he's too good to get his hands dirty." Gosling leaned forward, his composure cracking for the first time. "Too good? I never said that. I said I keep my political views private. There's a difference between having principles and performing them for cameras." "Performing?" Behar scoffed, her voice growing shrill. "So now everyone who speaks out about injustice is just putting on a show?" Gosling's voice dropped, barely above a whisper, but it carried through the studio like thunder. "I think some people confuse being loud with being right." The room went dead silent. Crew members stopped moving. No one breathed. Joy's face darkened. "Excuse me," she said, standing up. "Did you just call me loud?" "I said some people do," Gosling replied evenly. "If you think that applies to you, that's between you and your conscience." "My conscience?" she shouted. "My conscience is just fine. I sleep well knowing I fight for people who don't have a voice. And I respect that," Gosling said. "But respect works both ways. You can fight for your causes without attacking people who fight for theirs differently." Behar slammed her hand on the table. "Different is one thing. Cowardice is another." That was it. Gosling stood. The calm expression that had defined his public image for decades vanished, replaced by something cold and unyielding. "Cowardice." He repeated quietly. "You want to talk about cowardice?" He looked directly at her. "You invited me here under the pretense of discussing my work. You ambushed me because you disagree with my personal choices. You've insulted my character, my career, and my integrity." He paused. "And you call that brave?" The hosts sat frozen. One of them looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. And the studio knew. This interview was no longer just television. Alyssa Farah Griffin stared down at the table. This had gone far beyond a bad interview. No one knew how to respond anymore. "I call that holding you accountable," Behar shot back, though for the first time, uncertainty crept into her voice. "Accountable for what?" Gosling demanded. "For refusing to turn every interview into a political rally. For thinking people should be able to watch a movie without knowing how the lead actor votes. For using your privilege to stay comfortable while the rest of us do the work," she said, but the fire in her voice was fading, replaced by something closer to doubt. Gosling shook his head slowly. "Joy, you don't know anything about my life beyond what you read in headlines. You don't know what causes I support privately, what conversations I have with my family, or what I teach my kids about right and wrong. You've decided that, because I don't perform my beliefs for television, I must not have any principles at all. That's not what Behar started. Gosling didn't let her finish. "And you know what the saddest part is?" he continued, his voice strengthening. "We probably agree on most things. But instead of having a conversation, instead of trying to understand why someone might choose a different approach, you decided to make me your enemy. You turned what could have been meaningful into an attempted public humiliation." Behind the cameras, producers waved frantically, unsure whether to cut to commercial or keep rolling. It was historic television and completely out of control. Behar could feel the room slipping away. The audience, once restless, was now openly uncomfortable. Even her co-hosts had shifted away from her, their body language screaming distance. "I was just trying to," she began weakly. "You were trying to score points," Gosling cut in. "You wanted to look tough and principled by tearing down someone who wasn't fighting back, until now." He took a few steps toward the edge of the stage, then turned back. "You want to talk about using platforms responsibly? Start by using yours to build people up instead of tearing them down. Try having conversations instead of interrogations. And maybe remember that the people sitting across from you are human beings, not political props." Behar's face twisted, anger mixed with something dangerously close to shame. "You can't talk to me like that," she said, but the conviction was gone. "Actually," Gosling replied calmly, "I think I just did." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Behar spun toward the wings of the stage. "Get him out of here!" she shouted. "Security, get him off my stage!" Gosling didn't move. He looked at her with something like pity. "Your stage," he said quietly. "Joy, this is supposed to be a place for conversation, not whatever this turned into." "I said get him out," she screamed again, now desperate, unraveling in front of everyone. Whoopi finally spoke. "Joy, maybe we should just go to commercial?" "No," Behar snapped. "This is the problem. Everyone wants to smooth things over instead of calling out bad behavior." Gosling let out a short, bitter laugh. "Bad behavior." "Joy, look around." He gestured toward the table. "Look at your co-hosts. Look at the audience. Look at the crew. Everyone in this room knows who crossed the line today, and it wasn't me." He was right. Sarah Haynes blinked back tears. Sunny Hostin stared at her hands. Audience members shifted in their seats, visibly shaken. Even the camera operators looked rattled. But Behar was too deep to notice. "You think you can come on here and lecture me about my job?" she snarled. "You think your little speech makes you some kind of hero?" "I think," Gosling replied quietly, "that someone needed to tell you the truth about how you treat people." He paused. "And clearly, no one else here has been willing to." It landed. You could see it in the way the other hosts flinched, in the subtle nods from crew members who had clearly seen this before. This wasn't the first time Joy Behar had crossed the line, and everyone in the studio knew it. Security finally approached the stage, uncertain, hesitant. One guard stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable. "Sir, we're going to have to ask you to leave." Gosling nodded calmly. "Of course. I understand you're just doing your job." He turned back to the panel. "Whoopi, Sarah, Sunny, Alyssa, it was good to see you all again. I'm sorry this didn't go differently." Then he faced Behar. "Joy," he said, his voice carrying through the studio, "I hope, one day, you learn the difference between being passionate about your beliefs and being cruel to people who don't express them the same way. You can fight for what you believe in without becoming the very thing you claim to stand against." Behar opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, there was no comeback. No joke, no deflection. You can't just," she stammered. "Tell the truth," Gosling said quietly. "Say that you spent the last 20 minutes trying to humiliate a guest because he disagreed with you. Say that you turned a professional interview into a personal attack." He started toward the exit, then paused. "You know what's really sad?" he added without turning around. "We could have had a real conversation about celebrities and politics. We could have explored different perspectives. Maybe even learned something from each other. Instead, you made it about power, about who could hurt who first." He turned back, genuine sadness in his eyes. "I feel sorry for you, Joy. Somewhere along the way, you forgot that the people sitting across from you are human beings, with dignity and feelings, not targets for your anger." And with that, he walked off the set, flanked by security guards who looked like they wished they were anywhere else. The silence he left behind was suffocating. Whoopi tried to recover. "We're going to take a quick break." Her voice trembled. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was a public meltdown, broadcast live to millions. As the cameras cut to commercial, Behar could be heard muttering, no longer confident, no longer commanding. He had no right to talk to me like that. This is my show. I can ask hard questions. But the damage was already done. The other host sat in silence. The audience avoided her eyes. Crew members shook their heads as they reset the stage. Ryan Gosling had arrived as a guest promoting a film. He left as something else entirely. A man who had said out loud what many in Hollywood only whispered. Joy Behar remained at the desk, surrounded by co-hosts who could barely look at her, facing an audience that had just seen who she was when someone finally stood up to her. And that left one question hanging in the air. Who was really removed from that stage? The guest who kept his dignity while speaking the truth, or the host who lost control so completely she had to call security to silence it? What do you think? Was Ryan Gosling right to push back, or should guests always smile and accept whatever a host throws at them? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the moments when Hollywood's biggest stars reveal who they really are when the cameras are rolling.